Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Keep It Fictional with the Port Moody Public Library. I'm Virginia, and along with Corinne and Sadie today, we are here to celebrate what in Canada known as Asian Heritage Month. Because this is May, and we are once again here to highlight some of the voices of authors that are of Asian descent. And of course, as we always say, Asian is a giant term. It doesn't really mean anything. There's so many different experiences, countries, cultures involved in there. So we are able to represent three different ones, I think, maybe. I don't know. I don't actually know what everybody's talking about, but we will find out. But there are so many more for you to discover. And we're really lucky that a lot of authors are willing to share their experiences with us so we can get a glimpse of what it is like. And for some of these stories, for some readers, including myself, some of these stories are not just kind of a way for us to maybe have an exercise in walking in someone's shoes, but like for a lot of times, it is really like a lifeline for many people. Remembering myself reading Interior Chinatown, and just like kind of learning and getting the permission to be okay to kind of examine what it is like to be a Chinese person living in North America, to be able to say, yeah, well, that is really actually racist, and just like really be able to kind of have the permission to kind of look at those was really, really life-changing for myself. And even just remembering way back when I read The Joy Luck Club, which is quite a long time ago, and just seeing the same kind of generational mother-daughter conflict that I experienced in a book was kind of nice, even though I don't know like whether it helped resolve anything, but at least just be able to see that you're not alone is really quite important. So I think this Asian Heritage Month, I urge everybody to go support your local library, making sure that they are able to carry these stories for all kinds of readers who really do need it to be able to see themselves in the book. So with that, we're going to go into some of our books for today, and we're going to start with Sadie.
There has been a murder. That, in and of itself, is probably the oddest addition to Tabitha Zhang's life. The fact that her mentor, the magnificent sorcerer Julian Solomon, had predicted, to the day, when this murder would take place, surprisingly was only mildly odd. Him being able to see prophecies, like Tabitha herself. Sorcerer Solomon had been telling Tabitha this particular prophecy ever since she started apprenticing with him. Some details would change, of course. Sometimes the murder would take place in 50 years, sometimes the next day, and an array of times in between. But the other details, the important details, were always the same. I will die at the hands of my best beloved. So shall it be. Now, Tabitha refused to believe this. Whether the prophecy said it would happen the next day or not for another 5,000, Tabitha would not believe that anyone would kill her mentor, especially the person who he loved the best. Each time she would hear the prophecy, mixed in amongst a handful of other small prophecies and lies that Solomon used to test her with, Tabitha would immediately tell Solomon he was lying. And he would, good-naturedly, smile to himself and continue on with their lesson. However, the last time that Tabitha heard the prophecy, 7 months earlier, it was harder for her to push aside her own feelings of misgiving, her own feelings about the truth and accuracy of what her mentor had said. The truth that in 7 months' time, he would be dead. Now, while trying to shake off the strange feeling that had settled inside her, Tabitha was quite surprised by the sorcerer's next request. That when the murder happened, the first thing Tabitha was to do was to call Callum, her mentor's youngest son. Now, Tabitha knew Callum, of course. They were high school seniors together. However, they had never been friends. They had hardly even spoken to each other. But she found that in that moment, she could not turn down Julian Solomon. And so she promised. She promised that when Sorcerer Solomon was murdered, the first thing she would do was find Callum. Callum, however, was not the first Solomon that Tabitha met on that fateful Saturday morning. When she arrived for her lesson that morning, she found the imposing figure of Angelique Reed, Julian's first wife. With her vibrant green eyes and red hair, Tabitha had only ever seen Angelique in photos. Divorced many years earlier, the woman's photos were still quite present in the Solomon manor. And from what Tabitha understood, Angelique and Julian had been something of a magical power couple before their relationship dissolved and Julian married Callum's mom, Rowena. Angelique, a witch in her own rights, was terrifying, proud and confident in only the ways that a rich white woman could be. After some not so subtle racist comments, Angelique informed Tabitha that it had finally happened. The prophecy that everyone knew so well had come to pass, and Julian Solomon was dead. Tabitha found herself in shock. Even though she had heard this prophecy for years, part of Tabitha had convinced herself that he was wrong, that somehow her great mentor, one of the best sorcerers in the United States, if not the world, had made a mistake. It wasn't until after she had insisted on seeing the body, or what was left of it, that she remembered her promise. She still didn't understand it, but she wasn't going to go back on a promise to her now dead mentor. So she called Callum and realized that she now had to break the news to him that his father was dead. Upon hearing that she wasn't the first person to arrive at the scene and that Angelique was already there, he gave her one very clear instruction: run now. And she didn't know if it was the fear in Callum's voice or her own dislike and distrust of Angelique, but that is exactly what Tabitha did. And so this was how Tabitha Zhang, 17-year-old sorcerer's apprentice, found herself in the middle of a murder investigation with Callum Solomon and, by association, her as the key suspects. Oh, the rest of the family were suspects too. Angelique, the ex-wife, Rowena, the second wife, Felix, the oldest son, handsome and personable and talented, and Circe, the only daughter and a bit of a recluse. But Callum, the youngest son, and the only one amongst the kids who showed any real talent for prophecy like his father, was the prime suspect. But was Callum really his father's most loved? And if not, then who or what was? Tabitha wasn't really sure why she teamed up with Callan. She knew so little about him. Maybe it was a promise that she made to his dad, or the fact that she really, really did not want him to have killed his father. But Tabitha decided that if the two of them could find the real killer, then maybe they would both escape jail. However, now Tabitha has become the target for some very violent, very destructive magic that causes the same catastrophic explosions that seem to have killed Julian. And she needs to decide if saving Callum is worth the risk, and if by distancing herself from him and the whole Solomon family, if maybe she'll be able to save herself from a fate that is much, much worse than jail. This is These Deadly Prophecies by Andrea Tang, who is a Chinese-American author who lives in Washington, D.C. As well as being a novelist, she is a combat sports writer and an avid martial artist. She teaches and competes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where she has previously won the Pan American, European, and American national titles in her own division. So quite accomplished as more than just an author. This book was one that was on one of my most anticipated lists at the beginning of last year. And I originally listened to the audiobook of it. And I hate to say it, but I did not like the narration at all. The narrator chose a very whiny voice for the protagonist, and I found that it got on my nerves quite a bit, and I just could not engage with her or with the story. Now, I did get through it as an audiobook, but it was not my favorite. Even though the story for all purposes should have drawn me in. It's very much up my alley. That being said, I did revisit the book a little bit more recently, and I found that it was much more enjoyable just to read the book myself and have my own voice in my head. It's maybe disturbing. Anyways, the book is full of twists, and it is fun to try and figure out the mystery alongside Tabitha. The suspects do change quite a bit, so just when you kind of have an idea of who might have been the murderer, it shifts again, and you're completely baffled all over again. One thing I will say is that I wish there was a little bit more that was given to how the magic system worked and how it is just very regular for magic to be in the real world. It takes place in the modern day. It takes place in our world, just with the addition of magic. And they don't really go into a lot of detail about why magic is accepted. The idea, or they suggest that maybe was not always, but now it is. And so I just wish that there was a little bit more information given to that, a little bit more background given to that. I'm also not sure if this was the narrator as well, but I think that Tabitha can come off a little bit, for lack of a better word, as a wishy-washy protagonist. She goes along mostly with what everybody else kind of tells her to do and asks her to do. I will say that she does eventually start to come into her own. She becomes more confident, and that kind of helps to draw you into the story and want her to succeed a little bit more. But I would have liked to see that happen a little bit earlier in the story. I'd say that this book would be for readers who enjoyed the Inheritance games or like the movie Knives Out, but also if you enjoy a heavy dose of magic alongside your murder, this would definitely be a book for you. So yeah, if it sounds like you, then I would recommend These Deadly Prophecies by Andrea Tang, and sadly, I would not recommend listening to the audiobook.
So not recommend that you won't even say the name of the narrator.
Well, I also feel bad because I don't want to. It may have just been that reading of it, so I don't want to say bad things about the narrator and all of their work because I have not experienced any other of their work. So it may have just been a bad choice for that particular book. So I'm not going to say who the narrator is because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt as well.
Very nice, very nice. All right. I think I'm going to talk about my book next. I did also was originally intended to pick a book that is maybe set in Hong Kong, because I don't read a lot of that, and then or like some sort of related, um, to that. And it did start slash read two. One of them is Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Oh, about a mother-daughter trip to Japan, and the mother's family is like supposed to be from Hong Kong, so it's like kind of a little bit of related. And the other one is called Owlish, which of course I bought because of the word owl in the title, and it's by Dorothy C. It's actually by a Hong Kong author set in alternate Hong Kong about like a university professor is having an affair with a ballerina automaton. And it has got a lot of references to like the political climate in Hong Kong. And even though it's completely different, it's not called Hong Kong, but it's totally Hong Kong in so many different ways. So it's really interesting to read that. But then, earlier this week, the new Sayaka Murata landed in the library, and I'm like, nah, okay, I have to drop everything to read it. And so that's what I ended up doing. Very quick read, like it was like kind of like a one morning I finished this. And after you read a Sayaka Murata book, as if you have been, like if you have had experience reading her books, you know that you need to talk it out. And so that's what I'm gonna do today. So this is Vanishing World, her latest. Sayaka Murata is and then this is translated by Ginny Tapley Takemori, and she's probably most known for Convenience Store Woman, which is a bestseller in Japan and all over the world. But that's not the first Murata book I read. As Corinne knows, the first one that I read is Earthlings. Now, if you have also read Earthlings, you know that it is quite the reading experience. And I know after reading that, I wasn't sure if I was going to read another one of her books, to be honest. But then Life Ceremony came out, a book of short stories, and I was attracted to the cover. Again, just like Earthlings, like Earthling has a very, very cute hedgehog cover in the American version. And this one has like a delicious looking hot pot. on the cover that featured an anatomically correct like heart in there. So I'm like, okay, I need to know what's going on with that. Also, Liz told me that I should read it, so I did, and I really loved it. And I talked about it on the show already at some point a few years ago. And so after that, last year, I went back to read Convenience Store Woman. Now, originally, I think the way the book was marketed, it's sort of like a kind of a slice of life story, and it wasn't what I really normally would read way back when it came out. But I think knowing Murata now, having read Earthlings and Life Ceremonies, I'm like, I'm gonna have to give that a try. And I think like having been exposed to her writing, her social commentary, her viewpoint, like it is quite different experiencing, I think, Convenience Store Woman for me. And I find that that one I would say probably the most accessible, probably. Murata. Liz and I were talking about it yesterday, and we were calling it like Murata Light. It's still got a lot of her themes. It's still got sort of that stuff in it, but it's like a little more, I'm going to say, accessible and maybe a little bit tamer. So anyway, having read all of them, very excited to read World. So I kind of dropped everything and just read this instead. I was also a little apprehensive because it sounds closer to Earthlings. So I'm not really sure what that is going to be like, but I think I'm prepared to read Earthling again, maybe just to give it a chance. Anyway, Vanishing World, like many of her books, I think the focus is probably on the themes instead of perhaps the story. This one is set in future Japan, maybe alternate Japan, where everyone has kids by artificial insemination. So, which makes sexual relationship kind of obsolete in many ways. And sure, people understand that's the old way of having kids, but that's now is unnatural, is weird. Many people consider that to be like unclean. Like, why would you have to do that? And so when you're thinking about it's time to start a family, you usually go and attend these matchmaking events where you meet possibly your future husband and wife, and you're focusing very much on compatibility, whether you feel like they can support you financially, emotionally to have a child, whether you feel like they can take care of like household chores while you need to focus on work. It's more focused on that. And then once you get married, when you're ready for a child, then you'll go through that procedure, which, in some ways may sound kind of like our world, but marriage in her world is very, very different. When we say you become a family, we're really talking about family in the definition, like our protagonist Amane said. It's like people that you're okay with seeing you like throw up. Like they're expected to be there to stroke your back while you feel better when you're puking. And but it's the same kind of people that you'll be mortified if they see you naked. So it's kind of like it's stuff that you don't want like your family to see, and that's your family. So in this world, husband and wife is family like that. And even if you're inclined to explore sexual relationships, you do not do it with your husband or your wife. In fact, it's illegal because they're kind of more like your brother and sister. So it's considered incest if you're having that with your partner. So you think, well, what about love? What about romance? What about all of that? Well, of course, like people here still have like their desires. They want to be in love. And that's what lovers and boyfriends and girlfriends are for. So before or after you're married, it's not so different. You are expected to date, you're expected to take a lover, so that's where the love comes in. And often they will be at your wedding. They're like good friends with you. They are, and you are very, very much invested in your partner's relationships because you are, after all, a good brother or sister when you're a husband or a wife. And as Amane's partner said, it's only when I'm at home that I don't need to be in love. And that's the kind of comfort that a partner offers you. Not only that, who says your lover has to be real? Sure, you can fall in love with a real person, but many people choose not to. Instead, they fall in love with characters from TV, from anime, and from manga, and they have a relationship with them. And in fact, there's a whole industry. It is capitalism, hard at work here. We're creating these characters just so that they can be your lovers and to help take care of your needs, I'm going to say. And it almost feels like at some point that maybe you're just falling in love so that you can boost the economy. So Amani, our main character, for example, has fallen in love with over 40 TV characters, in her life. None of them are real, but she keeps a photo of each and every one of them in her purse still. Even if she might have fallen out of love with them, they're still really important to her. They are like true lovers, and she just loves them. She talks about the things that she does with them. And yeah, and sometimes her friends will laugh at her and be like, well, that's not what you think it is. And in this world, nobody really know what a sexual relationship anyway. So whenever they talk about it, it's very clinical in the book. Like nobody knows how it works, nobody know which parts it is. It's all a big mystery. So Amane very often is under the impression that she's having sex with these characters when her friends are like, no, that's not what it is. And as time goes on, more and more different ways of living comes out. So there's folks that who have gone abroad because same-sex marriages are not allowed in Japan yet, or then there are folks that have decided to live with friends instead because they think that that's better. And even if they want to have a child, they don't necessarily have to start a family. And of course, there's the experiments that are going on in Shiba, where Amane grew up. It has been renamed. The city has been renamed to Experimental City. This is where they're trying to create a new world where both men and women can get pregnant. So when you move into Experimental City, you basically agree to enter into a selection process where every year they will pick people to carry a child. And when the child is born, it's not yours. It belongs to everyone. So part of the condition in that city is that you agree to be a mother. Everyone is a mother. So your job is to shower the kids with love and attention because with research, they said that that is the best way to raise a well-adjusted human being. Family is old school. So you will walk out into the street in Experimental City and a child could run up to you and call you mother and cling onto your leg and you are expected to love them. And so our story follows Amane, our protagonist, as the world around her changes perhaps once again from the ways things used to be to, exploring all different ways of, like I said, exploring different relationships and love and family. She has been horrified by the fact that she was conceived the old way. Her mother has told her since she was young, and she kept repeating this gross story to her about how she was conceived that one night. And she's super embarrassed by it. She doesn't want anybody to know that that's like how like she was born. And her mother just like she's also embarrassed for her mother that she still carries this really old way of thinking with her. And she always feels like she's cursed by her mother, cursed by that red house that she lives in. And she blames her mother for any time when she feels like she's different. I'm different. It must be because you lock me into this house with your values and with your stories. And she first experienced love when she falls in love with, of course, a TV character. And she's getting all the strange body reactions when she's in love and, talks about how she deals with it. And one day she finds out by accident that her classmate is also in love with the same character. And she's so happy to see that someone loves this character just as much as she does. And then after they start talking about all of that, suddenly she feels that same warm and fuzzy feelings towards her classmates. And again, she feels like, oh no, it's my mother's curse. This why I need to love a real person? What is this all about? And so one day they decided to explore something else. And of course, again, they don't know how they work, so they are trying to figure things out. And so as she grows older, falls in love with real people, with unreal people, and finally decides to start a family. We learn about her family life with Saku, and how they are there for each other whenever their separate love lives are not going so well. And eventually what happened when they decide to have a child and where they decide to have a child. And throughout the book, as I mentioned, is not quite like about the plot, so to speak. It's very much about Murata, the author, trying to force us along with Amane to look at societal norms. What is considered normal? What is considered regular? What is considered acceptable? And where do these instincts that we have that, oh yeah, this is right and this is wrong comes from? Like in many ways, we have been brainwashed. It doesn't really matter what system of society favors at the moment. We've been brainwashed at some point to to acquire those ideals and sort of that sense of morality that we think this is like the right thing to do. And so like it is a way to make us kind of look at our world and what we believe in and what we consider acceptable and really question that and how any time when we have a system that people believe in, it creates that alienation, it creates the marginalization for folks that who think differently or folks that who cling on to the so-called old ways. It's a way for us to look at sort of our world and question that, question what love is, question what family is, question what partner is, and all of that. And so it is one of those, it is a very Murata book, I find. And I think it's always interesting to read her. And of course, in true Murata fashion, the ending is like quite something. I think I was like, what just happened? And a lot of readers, I think, justified it as like, well, it is her showing us sort of the extreme of what this brainwashing might lead to. But still, it is just as shocking, I think, as Earthlings. So yeah, there's no cannibalism. I can say that, but it is just still yeah. Anyway, so if you have never read a Murata book, I don't think this is the place to start. Probably convenience store woman, just to get like a sense of it. But I do appreciate, but I feel like out of the four books that have been translated so far, three out of four are like more like this. So I don't know who is the true Murata, right? I don't know. Look, if convenience store woman is maybe like the outlier here. I don't know, but yeah, it is always interesting to read her, and always interesting to see her point of view. And she really pushes you to explore things that you may not want to explore. So if that sounds okay to you, this is her latest Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata and translated by Ginny Tapley Takemori. All right. So before we go on to Corinne's book, I don't have like a really book related existential question today. I just want to know, because the other day I was just, whenever I have a bad day, I feel like I just want a bowl of Vietnamese noodle. That is usually what I would go for. So I would love to know from Sadie and Corinne, what are your like? Do you have like a favorite kind of like cuisine that is considered Asian, whatever that means? Um, and do you have like certain comfort foods that you always want to turn to, or do you have like a favorite? I just want to talk about food. So,
Yeah, so there is a sushi, like a very small, tiny sushi restaurant on Commercial Drive that is just like really like a hole in the wall. There's maybe three tables in there, and during the pandemic, I think we were there every week. There was a point where they knew my name. And there's like some very specific rolls that I get like after a long day, and I can order it from here and then I pick it up on my way there. And it's just like, again, I think it's like the same reason a lot of people like Tim Hortons. It's consistent. It is neither spectacular nor is it like horrible. It's just consistent. I always know what I'm getting into. I always know that it is going to be exactly what I want. They have a mango roll and I love mango. And yeah, that order kind of always revives me, but I'm like, you just need to like make it home. And if you stop here, okay, I can do it. It's like warm. It's still warm in my hands as I'm like walking back home. And then I just kind of eat. It's exactly the right amount of food that I want. And then I immediately fall asleep on the couch.
So ever since I was a child, one of my all-time favorite foods is wonton soup. Like I absolutely love it. And this has continued into adulthood. And so anytime I need comfort, soup in general, but wonton soup especially. And then we also recently discovered a vegan Vietnamese restaurant, and it is so, so good. It's called Khoe. And they do like banh mi and like noodle bowls and salads and things like that. And it is just the most delicious thing ever. And it is so disappointing because it is very difficult to get. We would try to order through DoorDash, and we actually ordered the other day, and they canceled our order because the restaurant. I don't know if they just don't have the the resources to handle like a lot of orders at once. And so we'll often not be able to get it, or it will take a really, really long time for it to get to us. And so it's very sad. But that, I think that is becoming one of my like really, really special comfort foods, is just these like tofu, or they use I think they're soy curls, but like for their chicken banh mi, and it's just so good. But yeah, wonton soup has been like my go-to, but not this is, and I don't know the specifics, but of kind of if one recipe is more traditional than others, but the ones with shrimp, I can't eat shrimp, and so I always have to make sure that the wontons don't have shrimp in them. But otherwise, wonton soup with noodles and veggies and deliciousness.
I also very much I can eat shrimp, but I do not like the kind with shrimps. They just taste wrong to me. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, and so thank you for sharing some food recommendations. It's always good to have to know where to go when you just need that, like you said, like that comfort. Just that it's the familiar thing. I do not agree with the Tim Hortons thing, but because it's gross, it's consistently gross. Okay, you're right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, maybe it is.
I'm
It's
not saying it's good.
consistently
It's
gross.
horrible. It's horrible food that
It's-
tastes bad and is bad, but it's consistently bad.
So I consistently don't go there because it's consistently gross. Okay, makes sense. All right. Okay, so Corinne, do you have a consistently good author, or do you have a new author that you have discovered for this week?
Yeah, so I also have a book from Japan. Sometimes, we plan out to make sure we can kind of hit different countries, because as Virginia said, Asia is it's a big continent. It's a big continent, but every once in a while, like a book lands in your lap and you're just like, I have to drop everything and I have to read this one. And this is one that I have been really meaning to get to. I've had it on my shelf for a little while, and I thought it was just the time. And I read a lot of reviews about this book and they were so glowing, and they mentioned a lot of other books that I really liked. And so I was like, okay, I want to try this for this topic. And I'm so glad that I did. Did I bawl on the SkyTrain? Yeah, I did. I did. And I'm so happy that the author was willing to share this story and this journey, because it's so personal and so wonderfully done that I'm just really blown away by this book. I will say that there is a content warning for depression and suicidal ideation. So I really wanted to talk about the book Halfway There. So, when Christine was 5 years old, her family moved from Japan to America. Her family consists of her father, who is an American, and her mother, who is Japanese. And Christine is called a lot of things. She's called half, she's called Wasian, she's called a halfie, she's called mixed, Hapa. This makes her, for some people, exotic. In the small, predominantly white Connecticut town where she grows up, it makes her popular. It makes her something special. And for a long time, she really relishes the attention. It makes her different from everyone else. But eventually, she starts to find it limiting. When the kids are playing Disney princesses, she gets to be Mulan and no one else, even though, as she points out, Mulan is Chinese and she's Japanese. And eventually, this label starts to chip away at who she is. She's not American, not American American, but she's also not Japanese, not Japanese Japanese. And because she doesn't have full command of the language, there is a moment in her life when some kids are asking her to speak Japanese and she struggles, and they say dismissively, she's faking it, as if you can fake being Japanese. She really enjoys her time going back to Japan. Whenever they visit, she gets to meet with her grandparents, Baba and Gigi. And she always feels that on that plane ride home, she's being ripped away from something wonderful, from a place of fantastic things and love and happiness with people who look like her. And as she grows up, she kind of feels hemmed in by this small Connecticut town, the expectations on her, the fact that she just doesn't fit in there. And so upon graduation, she decides to take a big leap. She enrolls into a university in Tokyo. At first, when she gets there, it's exciting. Tokyo is a huge city. This is a real chance to reinvent herself, but also to find herself. She can really figure out who she is as an adult. But when she gets there, she finds the same issues. There she is exotic. She's hafu, which gives certain people permission to just ask her questions, to touch her, to make comments about her promiscuity. They make assumptions because she's not Japanese. She finds it limiting. Her Japanese is weak, that she finds it sometimes hard to connect with her grandparents. She struggles in school. What does it mean if a Japanese person can't speak Japanese, can't learn Japanese? And it eventually starts to chip away at who she is. As the byline of the book is, when you're always just half, how can you become whole? Eventually, she sinks deeper and deeper into isolation. She hates Tokyo. She hates its coldness, hates that she's constantly surrounded by other people and their judgment. She hates the other students who are all better than her at Japanese, who are more beautiful, who are more put together, who seem to know themselves. But most of all, she hates herself. Eventually, she sinks into a depression in a city that is a part of her, but also not a part of her. A city that she desperately wants to belong to, but also feels she can't belong to. This is a really heart-wrenching, affecting graphic memoir, where, again, we are so privileged to get Christine Mari's point of view and her willingness to really share her struggles. The art style, while simplistic, really works. When talking or kind of personifying her depression, she has like a mirror image of herself, which is, if you've ever seen Howl's Moving Castle, when he turns into like a green goo, the goopy, depressive, sticky side of herself that is constantly whispering and hissing in her ear that no one likes her, no one cares, and she doesn't belong. It really illustrates kind of feelings of depression, of isolation, of being in between. I am so impressed that this is actually her debut graphic novel. I think that she shows such a masterful command of storytelling, of pacing, and her art is so beautifully rendered that you can connect to it on so many levels. And there are parts of like struggles with mental health that she just gets in an image that words sometimes can't. It really does talk about that struggle of her feeling like she has been called half. She struggles with that identity, how it is impossible when you stick people in a binary that it really shatters the wholeness of people. She's neither one nor the other, as people constantly remind her. And if she's constantly defined by what she isn't, she finds it really hard to define what she is. People look at her and they make judgments about who she is, but they don't really see her. If we limit people into this or that, exoticize them, you don't really see them. And I think that this is such a wonderful kind of like coming of age story because she has to grapple with that in the way that so many adults do. So many people who are this and that. That I think she really takes it in a really wonderful, nuanced, real, authentic way. You really feel that struggle and that sometimes there are no answers. The character is coming of age. She's becoming an adult, trying to figure out what she wants to be and who she is. And at the end, sometimes the answers is there are no answers. It's a journey. The relationship that she has with her baba, her grandmother, is genuinely beautiful. And yeah, I did start crying when she really talks to her baba and her grandmother. It's just so gentle. It's so gentle. I think that any reader could find something wonderful to learn from this book, something that's going to touch them, something that might shift their perspective a little bit or help them discover a little bit of who they are at any age. So, yeah, if you are looking for a wonderful graphic memoir, if you're looking for a wonderful coming of age story, or if you're just looking to kind of support an author who I think has done great things and is going to go on to much greater things as well, I could absolutely recommend Halfway There by Christine Mari.
Thank you for that. I think, it's a graphic novel, so it's fine that if they both have similar backgrounds. Yeah. Well, I mean, as usual with these episodes, if anyone wants to, this is time you to sneak in any other recommendations or like books that you might have considered for this episode that you didn't get to. I can start first so you can give you time to look through your list. Because I brought up the question. Yeah, so like of course next week, Ocean Vuong's new book is coming out, The Emperor of Gladness. Everybody needs to read that. There's also another book by a Calgarian Chinese author called Ant Tigress. And it's a book by Emily Yusun Chin. And the What Got Me, I didn't know she was from Calgary at first, but what got me was the first line in the blurb, which say, Tam hasn't eaten anyone in years. So yeah, so that's I need to read that. I started off because I wasn't really in the fantasy mood, but I started off and the first couple pages referred to, I am pretty sure they were talking about a Calgary Flames game, because they talk about the red jersey on the street. So I'm like, okay, now I really need to read this. So yeah, so that one's on my list. I might save that for the Prime Month episode because it's also a queer love story. And then the other one, of course, is Neon Yang, a new novel called Brighter Than Scale and Swifter Than Flame. I was going to do it, but it's about dragons, and I don't care for dragons. So yeah, so I also like kind of hesitated on that one. But those are like some authors that have new books coming out that I am excited to get to at some point. If one of you is ready.
Okay, I can go, Green. I'll give you some more time. Just because I've recently discovered two new authors, Hannah Alkaf is a Malaysian author, and Kat Cho, who's a Korean author. Both write YA books. One of them I will be talking about in a couple weeks for one of our episodes that I read specifically for that episode. And now I'm going to find other books by this author because I really, really enjoyed it. Yu Young Wang, again, a new author, The Rainfall Market, that I read at the beginning of this year, just kind of like a charming but a little bit more going on there, story about a market that kind of grants all of your wishes. Oh my goodness, looking through my Goodreads trying to find the names. Da, 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 da. Okay, you might have to come back to me for more, but that's my start.
That's good. Yeah. It's also funny too, because I love how we sometimes qualify these cozy stories that are very, very trending right now with like, it's a cozy, but it has more going on because not all of them do. And so
Well,
it's
also because I don't know if either of you have read that one, but there's definitely like an undercurrent of not coziness to that one. So you're not gonna get all good feelings in that one.
That's not the one with trolls, right? Goblins? No, 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 no. I'm
No,
thinking of something
no,
else. Okay.
no.
I'm like frantically trying to reset my book warehouse password because that's where I keep a lot of my things that I'm about to buy. And I have never remembered it ever. Uh, Borchung has a new one coming out with Anton Hur that is being released in late September, which I'm super excited about. Midnight Shift is also as it's slowly loading on the Book Warehouse. By Chan So-ran, translated by Jean Ping, is coming out in August, which is fantastic. Second Chance Convenience Store by Kim Ho-yeon. Again, these like cozy ones where it's like I own a small business, but then all my quirky neighbors come to visit are kind of like hit or miss with me. there were some that I really liked. And then there's one that has rainfall in it, which involved like 100% more goblins than I expected, which I purchased. And I'm just like, I don't think I can get through this, which is saying something because I usually finish every book. Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon by Muziki Tsujimura, who did that one. Gosh darn it. I believe that Mark talked about it, maybe. Great cover. Person in the Mirror Kingdom. Don't talk to any. Lonely Castle in the Mirror. There we go. Who did Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and then this is their new one. At home, I have got Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambo, who is based out of Manila in the Philippines, which is kind of like it's been described as Miyazaki-esque. We'll see. We'll see. That's a bold claim. That is a very, very bold claim.
Did you fold the cover into whatever that boat thing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is very cool. Like as a marketing technique, very, very cool. But I got the library copy, which the cover is taped to the book, so I will not be able to do origami, which is for the best because I'm not very good at it.
There's nothing better marketing wise than that recent menopause book that we got that comes with a paper fan. I'm sorry, I think that is the best. Who cares about stickers when you get a paper fan to go with it? Anyway.
As far as gimmicks go, it's like practical and fun. Fantastic Lou, which was a very sweet little graphic memoir by Lung Ching, who I believe is based in Canada. And of course, I'm going to give a shout out to the boss, Han Kong, who We Do Not Part. It might be one of my favorite books of the year, but we'll see. We'll see. Sadie, were you able in that kind of scatter shot approach to like find a few things?
Kylie Lee Baker, Keeper of the Night books that I've talked about on the show. Ruth Ozeki, I think she is American-born, Japanese American, but she lives locally and she writes locally as well. So a lot of her books do have a BC connection to them. Okay, I think that's where I'm gonna have to stop. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be scrolling. Oh, Sherry Thomas. Sherry Thomas is another one. She writes historical mystery novels. Most well known is her Lady Sherlock series, which is wonderful. And it's just a series that I kind of keep on reading. Just kind of when the next one comes out, I'm excited for that next one. So yeah, okay, there's my list.
I feel like I had to stop at 3. I'm just like, this is not this episode can go on forever if we're just gonna go through our list because there are so many. But I guess my follow-up question to that is, what is a author from a particular country in Asia that you haven't read yet that you're hoping to get to at some point? Maybe like a specific background that you're like, I don't think I have ever. Because for me, would be probably an Indonesian author. Like no, actually that's not true. I did read one. It was a choose your own adventure type kind of book for adults, which involved the devil. So I did read that one. But yeah, but like maybe I would say probably somebody with sort of that. No, I think I'm lying. I did actually read a good book. Okay, anyway, no, never mind. I don't have an answer to this. Your answer, maybe.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if this was like my reading goal last year or I've mentioned this before. I feel like Southeast Asia, there is not a ton published, thinking like Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. I feel like we don't get a ton of stuff in translation and so need to make like more of an effort to go and seek those out and kind of purchase those because I don't see a ton of stuff directly coming out of those markets into the English market. So I should make more of an effort there because I feel like yeah, there's so many exciting voices to discover.
Yeah, I was going to say kind of similar. This one is kind of cheating because I did just read a story based here, but Malaysia is a country that I have not read a lot about, and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised to find the book that I'll be talking about in a couple weeks was actually set in Malaysia, not just a Malaysian author, but it was set in Malaysia, which I don't think I've read a book that is set there. So yeah, that and Vietnam I think would be one for me as well.
All right, so some previews of upcoming episodes that you can look forward to. Well, as we said, so many to discover. So if you have a recommendation for us, please let us know. We would love to get to know more stories from like all around Asia. So thank you for joining us for this episode, and we will see you again next week. Happy reading.